Quite often get put into this spiral of feeling really down and anxious and worried.
Every muscle, every bone almost cracked, tense, and I'm screaming in guttural pain.
It really affected me because I felt different, and I physically felt I didn't belong in the world that I was in.
People they don't understand it. No bad.
Tourette's syndrome is a neurological and behavioural disorder that affects more than 300,000 children and adults in the UK.
I have a boner, big one.
Yeah.
Ryan from Berkshire and Spencer from Oxfordshire both suffer from physical and verbal Tourette's.
I'm Ryan. I'm considered to having one of the most severe cases of Tourette's in the country. I'm 26 years old and I've been living for this with about 11 years now. When I was 15 I had the flu with my dad, and then after the flu subsided I had a massive headache. It just felt like this pressure in my head had gone, like somebody put a balloon in my head and then the pins popped. So oh thank God the headache's gone, and then my head started ticking. And then that just happened. It went on to spiders bounce, pigs fly. What was my other ones? Woof go fetch. That was my favourite one that ever that first came out. Woo! And I then went to my neurologist that I'd had since 15, and he turned around and said, well, I've been waiting for this. I've always thought it was Tourette's syndrome, but I didn't want to put it in your head.
In Oxford, 17-year-old Spencer began developing Tourette's when he was just 7 years old and has spent his childhood learning to deal with his condition.
Hi, I'm Spencer Davis Monk. I'm 17 years old. I've got Tourette's syndrome and various other conditions. When I was very, very young, before I started, quite visibly ticking, we used to think that I had a really bad hay fever. Because I used to blink so much and my eyes would go bright red and puffy. But when I got to 7, my tics started quite heavily. I started with a heavy sniff and then a snort like a pig, and it would happen in that order: sniff, snort. And that was when I was 7, and it happened one night. I was laying in bed and it just started, and it happened, and I was confused and I was scared. I didn't know what was going on with my body and why I couldn't stop doing what I was doing, and it was sort of a mystery. And the same with my parents of what's going on, why can't he stop this? My tics just really very quickly developed from there. They went from sniffing and snorting to grunting sounds, to small words, and then moved on to more sentences and a lot more heavy motor tics, like hitting myself and doing lots of different movements and things.
Day-to-day life for Ryan and Spencer can be difficult and more challenging than other people's. The everyday tasks and activities that most people find easy can be challenging for those who suffer from tics.
Day-to-day life, I can't pick up sharp knives. I've held them to my chest, to my head, and my partner has to prise them away from my hand. Bathing, washing yourself. My partner's had to get me out of the bath because my legs are ticking and they're just kicking out.
Struggles change day to day. They change daily depending on what tics you're having, your stress levels and what's triggering your tics that day. But when they're slightly more bad, like I'm going dizzy all the time, I can't stand up for very long, I'm having nosebleeds, I'm hurting myself, I'm ticking loudly, and sometimes I don't feel safe on my own, or I don't feel safe using sharp objects or being around sharp objects. We've had times where we've had to lock knives and things away so that I feel safer. Myself and when we've been eating food before and things, I've had to have a physical thick wooden chalkboard so that my tics, when they slam knives or forks into the table, it would go into a chalkboard rather than the table.
Not only does living with Tourette's make everyday tasks difficult, it can also be detrimental to their health.
I have these, what they class as tic tacs, but they're full body seizures, and when, not seizures because I'm awake and I'm conscious when it's all happening, but the only way I can describe, wow, the only way I can describe that happened is like somebody's put in a cattle prod up your spine, which is an electric rod, and you can feel every muscle, every bone almost crack, tense, and I'm screaming in guttural pain, and that can land me in hospital for up to 2 weeks.
Sometimes I could be in wheelchairs, or because of leg tics, full body tics, I could be in a lot of pain. Recently I've had to consider different medications and things because my sniffing tics got so severe that I've damaged all of the inside pipes in my nose, and so I'm having loads of different nosebleeds, and I've got pain all in my lungs and diaphragm because it's so powerful and constant all the time. And then there's struggles of the public, so when you go out you can have struggles with how people might react, and the anxiety and stress that can come with that, of anticipating how people might act and constantly being ready for a battle of trying to explain to someone who doesn't quite understand.
Speaking out about their life with Tourette's is what Ryan and Spencer believe to be the best solution to educate those who don't understand the condition. In 2018, Ryan appeared on This Morning with Holly and Phil. In the same year, Channel 4 released a documentary about Spencer and his family.
In a quiet corner of an ordinary street lives a family that look like any other.
Hey, Teddy. Do you want a bone?
Except that Hayley and her husband Richard have 2 boys,
Fuck you.
both with Tourette's syndrome.
Wobbly arse, triple
22-year-old Ryan's Tourette's is so bad, he's thought to have one of the most extreme cases in the UK, and that makes finding a job a nearly impossible challenge.
Here are the top 5 myths about Tourette's. Ooh, 5 titties, I've got loads. How do I deal with this? So when I started going online and looking at everything, I sort of saw people when I was younger doing what I do now, which is spreading awareness. So I thought, well, coming to terms with it, I need to sort of show the world something that's completely different, completely unique. And so I got on social media that way, because the word does need to be spread about Tourette's. Luckily there's a lot more understanding these days, but a lot of people do still see it as the funny thing that's on TV, the funny thing that wankers, woo, that just swear.
Started making these YouTube videos that showed the tics that give me bruises and tics and how they affected me in school, and started sharing my experiences.
Sometimes Tourette's is difficult because, well, people say I'm weird and they give me filthy looks.
I know it is, Mummy.
And from there it really kicked off. We've done work for the BBC and Channel 4. I've done a couple of news reports for the BBC. We've been running the Oxfordshire Tourette's support group for as long as I can remember now, as well. As soon as we wrapped our heads around Tourette's, we started running the support group, purely because we could help others, but others could also help us. We've always been good and big on education and helping other people with it purely because we know how evil this world can be. People don't know what to do when somebody comes to them with it. We've come a long way from when I was a lot younger, but I feel like there's still plenty of room for better education on Tourette's and many different unseen conditions and neurological conditions.
Ryan and Spencer are continuing to speak out and educate people in the hope that they can create a more accepting environment for those with Tourette's syndrome.
Not bad.